can at least tell me why those guys were chasing you.
All right. Let me put it in language you will understand.
Okay.
Why do hot dogs come in packages of 10 while hot dog buns come in packages of just 8?
What the hell is that? You can't answer my question with another question, especially one as stupid as that.
When you attain a state of enlightenment that allows you to answer my question, I will answer yours.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Movie Oblivion, the podcast about feature films based on comic books and comic strips that people have stopped talking about. We are your hosts, Jordan and Kumar, that's me.
And me.
And this week we're talking about Bulletproof Monk from 2003, directed by Paul Hunter, starring Chow Yun-fat and Seann William Scott. Pause the podcast.
Oh yeah, pause the podcast. Boy, this is a hard no, because it's just one cliche after another.
Yeah, no, you don't want to watch this
There's
film.
no surprises.
No, you're completely right. This film is cliche driven.
Yeah, and the comic is really hard to find anyway. So.
Oh yeah, the comic. Yeah, don't even bother with the comic. But if you are interested in watching the film after hearing this podcast, then fair play to you. But no need to pause it because there are no surprises.
Yeah.
Although we have a surprise though about how we're recording this evening.
Right.
Oh well, I say this evening, whereas of course for Kumar it's the morning because
it's 7. Yeah, it's 7:30 a.m. here in Canada. We could have like had a skip week. I was like, no, the podcast comes first.
The podcast must go on. The show must go on.
Yes. And I was like, well, we got to record this thing. And the other problem was that I had read the comic and we had some delays, right? So I read it and then we had to postpone.
Yep.
So it's been like 2 weeks. It was getting further and further from memory. And in fact, I had to reread it. And that's not the first time. There was another episode, which I can't remember, where I'd read it and then we had to postpone for a week or two. And it was a really bad comic. And then I had to read it again. And that happened this week.
Yeah. I did the exact same thing because I couldn't have told you a damn thing about this comic.
Yeah.
I was looking at my notes that I wrote 2 weeks ago and I didn't remember what any of it was referring to.
Yes, I had the same issue. Yeah.
Amazing.
But we can tell you this data about the comic. So it came out in 1998 from Image Comics.
Right.
Which we'll talk more about on a later date. But Image had a lot of like studios. They have some weird system set up where it's like a pay to play system where I think if they accept your comic, you have to pay an upfront fee or something to get published by them. I'm not sure exactly how this works, but there were a lot of studios, and this one was set up by something called Flypaper Press.
Yep.
Which, as far as I can tell, didn't do anything else.
This is their only.
This is their only thing, and
publication.
I will say this is a shady operation in terms of adaptation, because I noticed in the movie that the first credit at the end is a Flypaper Press production. So it seems like this whole mechanism might have been set up to publish this comic and then hopefully get it sold as a movie that came out 5 years after.
It wouldn't be the first time. I didn't find anything about that online.
Right.
Or I managed to find an episode of a podcast.
Okay.
The podcast is called Steve Rubin's Saturday Night at the Movies.
Okay.
And he interviewed the screenwriters.
Okay.
A screenwriting duo called Ethan Reiff and Cyrus Voris. They didn't mention anything about the Flypaper Press to movie pipeline.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be the first time. We've discussed this before.
Yeah.
The story of this comic book and the story of this film really is the story of a title.
Yes.
They came up with this cool title.
Yeah.
And from this molehill, quote unquote mountain of a film that we saw.
Well, I mean, speaking of, just coming up with the title and how cool it is, there's various introductions to the single issue and the trade paperback, which I could only find in PDF form online, where the people in the background keep talking about how cool it is.
Yeah.
Even when they're talking about fighting Nazis and stuff, it's always talking about, wow, this is really cool. This guy's kick ass. Kick ass is a phrase that comes up a few times, that kind of thing. The credits in these comics are really weird because if you look at the single issue, which we had to find online, I actually did buy a copy of this, by the way, physical.
You can't see it, but I'm holding it right now.
Yeah. So the first credit in the single issue is story editor Gautam Chopra. And then it lists the writer and then the penciler. And I'm like, that's weird. That's like some cigar chomping going on there. I've never seen a comic where the story editor is listed first. Then you go to the trade paperback, and the first credit is Bulletproof Monk was produced and conceived by Michael Yanover and Mark Panicia. And then you're like, who are these guys? And then they've got an afterword, and they're like, yeah, we came up with this concept, and then we hired these writers and these artists to draw it. So maybe these guys are Hollywood people, maybe that's my hunch. I don't know. But you read this afterward, it doesn't sound like they know anything about comics. Sounds like they're just like, wow, this is a cool idea, and then we hired these people to do it.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, we know that this is the thing. You want to get your movie made. It helps if you can show those dumb execs.
Yeah.
This is what it's going to look like.
Yeah. So their writers.
Or if you just have something more than a title, just walk into the office with the title Bulletproof Monk. Doesn't it sound sick?
Yeah. It really sounds like that. It sounds like Poochie. It sounds like a dog wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
That's
exactly what it's like.
So it's the first issue is written by somebody named Brett Lewis. And then volume 2, they call volume 2, issue 2 is written by somebody named Brett Lewis and R.A. Jones, based on characters created by Brett Lewis. And then issue 3 is written by R.A. Jones, based on characters created by Brett Lewis. So Brett Lewis didn't even last the full 3 issues. He was there for 1.5.
There's only about 20 pages per issue.
That's right.
This whole thing's just so dodgy.
It is. The artist is Michael Avon Oeming, who's actually went on to a pretty decent career in comics. He drew Powers, written by Brian Michael Bendis, and that became animation. Yeah. So he actually I think he drew Thor as well. Like he had some work on Marvel. He actually went on to a pretty decent career.
Yes, well, after this inauspicious beginning, because the art is fucking terrible.
The art is really bad in this, and also it is weird that he is in the credits. We get of the trade paperback. We get Bulletproof Monk was produced and conceived by blah blah blah, artwork by Michael Avon Oeming, inks by Jason Baumgartner, story edited by Gautam Chopra, and then written by. So written by is like fifth down. Normally in a comic book,
the writer's at the top.
Writer's at the top, maybe second in some cases.
After
like Saga. Yeah, like Saga has the artist list, but it's very rare. But anyway, it is
ring the bell. Oh no, but Saga. Sorry, Saga, not Saga of the Swamp Thing.
No. Yeah, no.
Because Alan Moore's listed for it first in that one. Hold on.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this comic, which is hard to understand. I had a lot of trouble figuring out what was going on.
It doesn't help that the art is really awful.
Yeah.
Can't tell what's going on a lot of time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it looks as though some of the panels, it looks as though he stretched the image to fit the panels.
Yes. Why did that happen? Yeah.
There's some amateur hour shit, like in MS Paint or something.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like drawn a box and then just stretched.
And he's like, whoops, this is the wrong size. I better use MS Paint to stretch it out. Yeah. So it starts with a woman in China who's hanging laundry, and then a man on horseback shows up. She's way out in the country, and they're
near the East Sea of China, which already I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. By the way, we should point out that there doesn't seem to be any Chinese people. I'm presuming based on the names involved. None of the these two producers, the story editor who get top credits, the artist.
Deepak Chopra's son. So you know Deepak Chopra, the kind of like pop.
Oh, so he thinks he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
I see. Oh,
yeah.
okay,
that's why it's full of all that fortune cookie shit.
Oh my god, what a revelation!
And I'm pretty sure he's involved, this Chopra Jr., I'm pretty sure he's involved with Flypaper Press as well. Like he maybe owns it or co-owns it or helped set it up.
Okay, yeah. Well, the Flypaper Press doesn't exist anymore. It existed for a brief moment of time, as far as I can.
To produce this comic, and then it vanished.
This comic, and then they made a movie, and then the comic disappeared. There was a sequel, which is like a prequel comic or something. When the movie came out, they were like, "Oh, we better have a tie-in comic come out," which I think is prequel material. But even that's hard to get. Like this stuff is pretty much
Yeah. So
the comic sales weren't boosted by the movie or anything.
no. Well, there was
Which
a
shows
tie-in
you-
comic. The movie Bulletproof Monk has a tie-in comic, not
Tales of
associated
Bulletproof
with
Monk.
not associated with the original comic.
Right.
And I know that because the screenwriters wrote one of the issues for this
Oh,
tie-in
I see.
comic, this
Okay.
Bulletproof Monk tie-in comic that they produced
Tales
to
of the
coincide.
Bulletproof Monk. Yeah, is what it's called. Tales of the Bulletproof.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I wish I'd rather read that. I'm sure it's way better than this.
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
Oh, God.
I have
I mean, as long
doubts.
as it follows a normal story,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get to talk about this when we get to
Yeah.
adaptation.
Yeah.
We talked about how this film is just one cliche chasing another for
Yeah.
90 minutes, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, I agree. Compared to the comic, I agree. But we'll get to.
So there's problems here already.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be set, I guess, in the 90s, and yet, the characters are talking about Chairman Mao.
Yeah. So
Okay,
and
Chairman
she's
Mao.
really-
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So Chairman Mao's died in 76.
Mhm.
People, not even fanatics, don't really talk about serving him or doing what he wants.
Yeah. No.
It's already so on the very first page. We got the East Sea of China,
Yeah.
which isn't a thing, and then we've got Chairman Mao, who's been dead for 20 years.
Yeah. Well, we haven't talked about this woman's hanging laundry out way in the country, and this guy on horseback shows up with a message from
Is it on horseback?
Beijing. Yeah. And then the message, there's a caption under some Chinese writing that says "sent back to America," and I don't know what "sent back to America" means. Like, does that mean something was sent back, or does it mean?
Are you able to read the Chinese here?
I can read a few characters, but not enough to assemble a meaning. Like there's a run or travel, and there's turnaround. There's beautiful country.
Okay.
And there's going somewhere, and there's ultimate something. But then the message says the English caption says "sent back to America," and as far as I read this whole comic twice, and I don't know what was sent back to America or what this message.
Yeah, good point. Because she's not. Is she being sent back to America? This girl?
But then it wouldn't say sent. It would say go back to America
or return to America.
Yeah, return to America or go. Has she ever been to America before? As far as we know, no. It's never mentioned in the comic that she was ever there before.
No, it's not actually. And since she's quite young, it doesn't really make sense that she would be.
Or
wow, this has been a deep dive on page 1. Don't expect this level of analysis for the remainder of the comic.
Yeah. So then we cut to San Francisco. There's this dude named Kar, K-A-R. That's his nickname. And he's traveled around the world, and he's working now in a convenience store. And he's pining for to be in love with some woman that he hasn't met yet.
Right. This is in San Francisco.
Yeah.
The background colors, we've got a lot of kind of washed out pinks and
browns. It's not as bad.
It looks really, it's quite ugly, honestly.
Yeah, a little bit. Anyway, so these thugs show up at the convenience store, and they're filming stuff, and there's a girl there's a guy who considers himself a director. There's a girl who's his girlfriend, who we later learn is called Daughter. I don't think we ever learn her real name. And she says she lives in a mansion with the director. She says they seem like street thugs, but she lives in a mansion.
Well, that's just they're just bullshitting at that point.
Yes,
she's actually. Oh, okay. So
she says he is a famous director, and I am his pampered wife who live in a mansion. That's what the word she says. Now, Kar is wearing this special necklace with a medallion on it, and she wants it as a thug. She's like, we're just taking all this stuff, we're stealing stuff, we're trashing stuff. I want your amulet. He's like, no, you'll never get it from me. It's special to him. And they get a big martial arts fight in the convenience store. He beats all these guys up, and that earns the respect of the director, who's known as Leader, or his name is Dai To. So, yeah, he's
like big boss.
That's right. So he's like, actually, this guy who beat us up is cool. And then the guy, Kar, is like, yeah, these guys are okay. And he leaves with them on their motorbikes. And they go hang out. And they become good buddies. So he joins this gang. I think they're called the Wei Gang.
Yep.
And the girl turns out to be the daughter of the head of the Wei gang.
Yep. She's
So
a mafia princess.
That's right. And she's only ever referred to as
Daughter.
daughter. That's right. Now, we learn at this point, she's like, what's up with that medallion? And what does it say? He says it says Bulletproof Monk. And he says that a long time ago, this is great. It's in one page. Nazis sent archaeological teams to Tibet to find some like mystic secrets.
Yes.
And they were looking to find some Superman gene in Tibet. And but so they abducted a bunch of people. They experimented on them. One was his grandfather who escaped. He survived. His grandfather survived. And this is what he says. He says, a few survived the experiments. One who did, my grandfather, went to get help. He never came back. So just bear that in mind for later in the book, because I have a lot of questions about what that line means. Anyway, This savior showed up called the Bulletproof Monk, who we're told is a Mongolian cowboy.
Okay, so already he's not a monk. He's a cowboy.
Yes, he's a mysterious Mongolian cowboy.
We see a picture of him. We can see him here, and he does look like a monk. He looks like he's wearing like an army uniform.
Yep.
Some kind of uniform.
Yeah.
You know what cowboys don't usually wear.
Yeah. So he beats up the Nazis and the communists. I guess they're both collaborating. I don't know. And,
we just jump to Nazis and communists both looking for him.
They're both looking for him. So the monk goes into hiding, and he gives the medallion to the villagers. And it's inscribed with his name, and he said it bore a clue that would help the villagers find him again if they ever needed him. And so far, I haven't found him. Now, what is so far I haven't found him? Why is he looking for him? Is he trying? Do the villagers need the Bulletproof Monk again? It's not stated. He doesn't say my village is in trouble. I need to find the monk.
No, he's not in trouble. He's just living in San Francisco, working in a donut shop.
Yeah, but
running with street gangs. He's the opposite of being in trouble. People need help from him, if anything, because he's like
that's what I'm saying. It says if the village is ever in trouble again, if they need help, they can find him with a clue from the medallion. But we don't get a sense that later on we learn that like his mother is missing and stuff like that. It's all very sloppy. We don't learn a lot of stuff.
Because we found out the village doesn't exist anymore because everyone left Tibet.
That's right.
But the whole village left Tibet because they were being persecuted by the communists, because the communists, the People's Republic of China invaded Tibet in the 50s.
Yeah.
And they fled, the villagers fled the communist invasion. Fled to Hong Kong, where they lived for a while until the communists came to Hong Kong as well in 1997. Yeah. And there's a bit later on in the book where Carr's talking about how they were forced to leave because they were dissidents, people that had fled the PRC, come to Hong Kong, and then the British kind of rounded them up and arrested them. Now, look, I'm no fan of British imperialism, but political dissidents living in Hong Kong ahead of the handover in 1997 were offered residency in the UK, and thousands of people did.
Yeah.
So this comic, it's full of all this fortune cookie shit.
Yes.
There's panel after panel, caption after caption of all this deepity. This deepity wisdom, and then you have these egregious errors that are really easy to kind of look up. It's the same thing with the Nazis in Tibet. Okay, the Nazis really did go to Tibet in the late 1930s, except they weren't soldiers. They were scientists and anthropologists. It was interesting because it was funded by the SS. They there was a branch of the SS called the Ahnenerbe, which dealt with kind of funding pseudo-scientific research into, the master race. And I think Himmler, who was head of the SS, had a theory that the original Aryans came from Tibet. And so there was this money available. So some German anthropologists were like, yeah, we'll go. And they did, and they went and just did kind of like regular research. So that really happened, but they weren't looking for the Superman gene.
Yeah.
And they weren't violating the natives and despoiling the graves or anything else that it says they're doing. And they certainly didn't tangle with any bulletproof monks or Mongolian cowboys for that. I mean, maybe a Mongolian cowboy.
Well, that's our big lie anyway. That's the premise. So it's okay. I'll give them that. But yeah,
Here's another thing. This is completely, this is the most interesting thing about this comic, the idea that this Raiders of the Lost Ark stuff, like Nazi scientists looking for treasure and mystical artifacts in Tibet. It's not surprising that this makes it into the film because it's the most interesting fucking thing that happens in the whole comic.
Yeah, yeah. So Carr ends up working for the gangs, like doing their shady jobs, kind of like they have like front jobs that pay very well. He has a dog which it seems to speak to him. I don't know. I just wanted to mention that.
There's these captions that imply that there's this deep relationship with a dog.
Well, the captions imply everything. Like every relationship is given through captions. Like I fell in love with her, but we get like one panel, one or two panels.
Dialogue.
No, it's very, yeah. Okay, so he ends up in this relationship with daughter, and he's like saying, "I feel lost," and she's like, "Well, you should go look for the Bulletproof Monk. That's your deal, right?" He says, she says, "If you feel so stuck, shouldn't you be looking for this Bulletproof Monk?" He says, "I am," and they're just sitting on the couch watching TV. She says, "No, you're not. You're watching Flashbeat MTV." Now, again, this is 15 pages, and we have not been told that he's looking for the monk, really.
No.
He says, "I haven't been able to find the monk." There was no implication that I was given a quest to find the monk. I have to find the monk, and he doesn't do it. And there's twice in this comic where he falls in love with someone, and that inspires him to go looking for the monk. Otherwise he just sits around. He's like Hamlet. He's like, I don't want to I'm not interested in doing this thing. And then some girl falls in love with him, and she's like, "Hey, you need to find purpose. You got to go find this Bulletproof Monk." This happens twice in 3 issues. It's crazy.
Everyone's looking for the Bulletproof Monk.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
We don't learn that yet. That comes up later. So
can't we please just jump ahead?
So he tells a story about how his mom they fled to Hong Kong, as you mentioned before, and then they were captured. And she gives him the necklace, which at this stage we don't know how she got the monk's necklace, right? Because it was given to the people of the village, but somehow mom has it.
Yeah. And she gives it to him, not to his uncle, her brother.
Right. So she basically sends him away. He's living with this guy that he calls his uncle, but is, I think, like a more distant relative, as I recall.
Oh, I don't remember. I was under the impression that he was his actual uncle.
Okay, maybe he is. So I thought he was like a grand uncle or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He is his uncle. Now, what happens is it turns out that Leader gets killed, and we don't quite know who it was. But when that happens, she basically transforms. She becomes the new leader of the gang.
Yep.
And she doesn't care. Her whole look changed. She dresses differently. She acts differently. Her mannerisms are all different, as far as I can tell, from Michael Avon Oeming's limited artistic abilities at this point in time. But she starts to ignore him. She doesn't care about him now. She's more worried about being the leader of the gang and finding out who killed Leader.
Which is very important to her for some reason.
Yes. Now, meanwhile, Flower, what was her name? Flower?
Her name's Flower.
Her name's Flower. So she has shown up in...
This is the girl from the first page, the one on the mission for Chairman Mao.
Yeah, and she's like in like a dormitory. So she's going to university. She seems to be in a romantic relationship with this woman who she murders.
Yep.
But we don't know quite why yet.
We never find out why.
Well, no, we know that she was assigned to kill this woman by this lady named Madame Wu, who
shows up for one panel.
Yeah, she shows up for one panel, and she asked Madame Wu, "Why did you want me killed? Why did you want that girl killed?" And Wu was like, "I have my reasons, whatever." That's it.
So we never find out.
We never find out, but I guess there's some clumsy storytelling here, because later on, I think we're supposed to learn that Flower does feel emotional connections to the people she kills sometimes. She's capable of feeling love. Maybe we were supposed to feel that in the scene. I don't know, because it's so sloppy.
I don't know. Maybe she's crying in the scene, but the way it comes across on the page is almost like she also knocks a lamp over, and it almost looks like she's crying because she knocked over the lamp.
Yes.
She mentions Chairman Mao again.
Yeah.
I think that's the last time he pops up. So long.
Yeah.
Now. And then it turns out that there's another Chinese agent operating in San Francisco as well
Yeah,
as
this
Flower?
guy's called Agent One, and he seemed to have been previously was like a bodyguard for the Wei family. Like he's in some scenes, but it's again very clumsy. It's hard to tell if this is the guy that was in the previous.
He's like a mate. It seems that he's the same one.
Yeah,
He always wears glasses.
he has been hanging around, but I don't think they ever called him Agent One before.
No, they didn't. Carr calls him the eyeless man or the faceless man or something because he never takes
Yeah.
off his glasses.
That's right.
And he's really high up in the gang. He's daughter's kind of like second in command almost, or like her major domo.
Yeah.
He's the one that she issues orders to, but yeah, he also goes out and does grunt work too.
That's right.
Anyway,
So
he's a Chinese secret agent too,
yeah,
with conflicting instructions. He's
That's
sort
right.
of got the same mission. It turns out they're both there to find the bulletproof monk.
Yes, this is revealed later, and also daughter
I
keeps
keep wanting
switching
to
back and
jump
forth.
in.
She's like, daughter keeps firing him. She's like, "You're fired. Flower's going to do the job," and then Flower screws up, and she's like, "Flower, you're fired. Agent One is going to do the job." This happens.
Yeah,
like,
why is
times.
daughter giving orders to Chinese secret agents? She's the head of
She
the gang.
claims there's one line of dialogue where she says, "In America, I have authority."
But
Even after it's revealed to her that like, oh, this is all a Chinese the Chinese government was actually running the Wei gang, and then she's like, "Well, I have authority here." That's not true. Like,
no, it's not true. She wouldn't have authority.
It's
So
just
why
been
is he...
revealed that that's not the case. Like,
And then she starts to care about she cares about the bulletproof monk too. Finding the bulletproof monk. First of all, I mean, the Chinese government apparently really wants to find him because we never know why.
Yes, we don't know what, but also
We know he fought
60 years
Nazis.
ago. It was 60 years ago. So what threat is he to them? We don't know that he has a magical power to be able to pass on his psyche to another generation at this stage. So why do they want to find him? What do they?
No, it's never made clear. And also, just there's no reason why the Chinese government would want to find him, and there's especially no reason why a random gang in San Francisco really wants to find him as well, because daughter really wants to find him too.
Well, by the way, this carries over to the movie in a way. Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get there.
Good.
Okay, so there was some videotape shot of Leader before he was murdered, and she wants Agent One to find that tape. Later on, it's revealed that tape shows that Leader One was responsible, or sorry, Agent One was responsible for Leader's death.
Yeah.
Right?
How did it show that?
How? How did it show that? This is a video that was shot before he was murdered. What is on this tape? It's fascinating to me. Okay. So meanwhile, Carr is trying to mend his relationship with the daughter by this crazy page where he's doing pratfalls and like slapstick comedy, like slamming fries against his head, as if that's gonna somehow she's gonna love him again, and be distracted from her mission to find Leader's killer.
And the captions are really melodramatic here too.
Yeah.
It's like, I lost her.
Yes.
Like,
I tried to make her laugh. ... the way I could before. Yeah. And then he hits himself on the head with a broom, as if this is somehow, it's crazy. Then he starts training with his uncle. He's doing some martial arts training, and he has doing some moves that he's never done before. It's like automatically he's picked up the moves. And later on, we see he's able to drive a motorbike with his eyes closed. He's picked up the spider sense. So, something's going on with him. Flower meets with Madame Wu. They're like, yeah, we need to find this bulletproof monk. We don't know why. They know that Carr is connected somehow. And she also warns her that there's another agent. There's Agent One, who's also you need to show him that you're taking over this job or whatever. Carr has a dream of the bulletproof monk. We get more fortune cookie stuff.
I've actually wrote it down. Haven't you learned yet that all worlds are real? When you find yourself, you will find me.
Great. Great. Jeez, I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah, I wonder.
I'm in suspense. Where is the bulletproof monk?
I wonder who the bulletproof monk could be. I wonder why the medallion's so important.
Yes. By the way, now he's talking with his uncle, and he says, and he cuts himself off from the gang. He's like, I'm not going back to that gang. And then his uncle says, well, I want you to go buy some groceries. And he goes and he buys a can of peaches, and there's a caption that says, Uncle loves peaches. I don't know why there's a panel of a can of peaches and a caption that says, Uncle loves peaches. It never comes up again. He never throws the can of peaches at someone and it saves his life. They never trap Uncle by luring him with peaches. It's just a bizarre. I don't understand what's going on in this comic. Why is there a can of peaches?
The story editor clearly wasn't doing a very good job.
And he's got top credit. Top credit. Gotham Chopra.
Gotham Chopra, he's not really, he let that Peaches panel slide through to the keeper.
Yeah. Okay. So Flower and Agent One confront each other in a McDonald's. That's weird. And
And they say things like, "Why are we meeting in this bourgeois capitalist hellhole?"
yes,
And Flower's
yes,
like, "Because I like fries."
yes.
Who wrote this? Well, 10 people wrote this, so that shows. Anyway.
Yeah. So the Flower reveals to Daughter that Agent One was responsible for Leader's death because Leader was being loose-lipped and bragging about his connections to China.
Yep.
So he killed him somehow. Evidence of this is on the tape. I don't know how. As mentioned before. So the case is reassigned to Flower by Daughter. So Flower pretends she is being mugged by some guys, or allows herself to be mugged, and for Kara to rescue her, and that starts them on a romantic relationship. But by the way, it took me about 5 pages to realize that this character was Flower. I thought it was just some other girl that he rescued in the alley. Because the art is not tight enough to let you know that that's the same character. It took me a very long time to work this out. They end up in a whirlwind montage romance, Dune style. You can ring the bell for that. As it's all done in captions. It's 2 pages, all done in captions. You're like, oh, they're in love, and then suddenly he's like, well, I got to find the Bulletproof Monk again, as I mentioned before. So she like urges him to do it, and she's like, she's like, you need to close your eyes and use your senses, and he can feel her heartbeat and everything. And she's like, oh no, is it possible? So she's starting to suspect that he actually is the monk.
Yeah.
And he's starting to suspect himself. He's like, maybe the amulet will bring the monk to me, like the monk is in me, this kind of thing. Then he goes home and he's captured by the bad guys. And now he has a fight with the bad guys, but he's thrown into a cell. And Flower turns. So she actually really did love him in that half-page montage. It turns out they really did have a relationship, and she wants to help him. And they've also beaten up his uncle, so he's like near death. And he reveals him like, you have to find your true self. And he's like, I think I am the monk, uncle.
He basically spills this, but he basically kind of like lays it out. He says the monk has magic powers. He has he's got a spidey sense. Yeah. He's kind of like the shadow. He can manipulate the minds of the weak-willed or something, or see their thoughts. Remember that medallion? If you're wearing it when the previous monk dies, you'll get the monk's powers.
Also,
and then he dies.
Yes, but he also does say that the Bulletproof Monk gave the medallion to your grandfather, and then the grandfather gave it to the mother. But remember, back in issue 1, we learned that the grandfather left the village and never came back.
Yeah, good point. So
how did this transaction happen? Did he leave with that medallion and never come back? Then how did he get the medallion to the mother?
There's an answer here, but you're not going to like it.
Okay.
The grandfather was the Bulletproof Monk.
But the grandfather is
he got the powers off another one and came back as the monk.
Oh.
But I think I'm probably
is that the right sequence of events? I thought the monk appeared in town.
Yeah, he did appear after the grandfather left. But
okay.
It's not no. If that were the thing, we would get like 10 different captions alluding to it.
Yeah.
And there wasn't. So I'm giving the comic too much credit. No, this is the plot hole.
Maybe the answer's in the peaches.
It was in a tin of peaches all along. So the uncle says that he always hoped he would be the Bulletproof Monk, except why would he hope that? Because he never had the medallion.
Yeah, I wondered that too.
He couldn't have become the Bulletproof Monk. So that's stupid.
And is the medallion the only thing you need? Is this like the matrix of leadership in Transformers, where it will light your darkest hour, but also it will open for anyone who happens to be the first one that holds it after Optimus Prime dies?
Yeah, I think it's like because
the other guy, Agent One, tries to steal it from him, thinking. And how does he know?
Yeah, how does he know? He's been looking for the monk, and he had no idea who the monk was. Now he knows that he can get the monk's power. So it's the power of the monk that they were after all this time?
I guess so. Because
they never said that.
No, they didn't before, but the final issue is like, I want that power. And then Kara's like, you don't deserve the power.
No, he says a really cornball thing. He says, maybe I don't deserve the power, but the power definitely doesn't deserve you.
Right. It does not deserve you. And he's like, how would you use that power to torture more old men and slaughter more innocents? So suddenly it's all about, if you have the medallion, that's enough.
Yep.
You don't have to be worthy or anything like that, which maybe
No.
that
You
wasn't
just have to
established.
be wearing the medallion, and the previous monk has to die.
But does that mean that the previous monk died during these 3 issues of this comic, and that he was alive, and then once he died and he had that dream, that's when
It was
came
implied. I mean,
Oh, I see.
but it wasn't shown.
Okay, so he was physically in the world.
So it's kind of
And
like you never saw Avatar, so it's a bit like you never watched Avatar: The Last Airbender.
no, I know.
In that,
Oh, I
the
did see that. I
Avatar.
did see that. Yeah.
Oh, you did? So the
Yeah.
Avatar power passes from one holder to the next at death,
Okay.
and so that sometimes they people want to kill the Avatar. Sometimes they want to keep the Avatar in prison so that the power won't move on to a new holder.
Right.
Here, it's a bit like that. I suppose they want the power of the monk, maybe that's why they're chasing it, because they want it to do oppression better.
Okay.
But it's never explained.
Okay. So as I said, Flowers turned. He doesn't quite believe her, but she says, you can put your hand on my head, and he's able to like Vulcan mind meld with her.
Yep,
and
it's
know
like
what
the shadow.
feelings are. Yeah. And it's very weird because it's not dialogue from him. It's his hand on her face. It's close to her face, and she says, "Yes, I can feel you in my mind. You know I've changed, that my feelings for you are." And then he says, "Quiet, kiss me." But it's not him saying, "I can feel your mind. I know your feelings have changed." That's another weird.
So he's like Bruce Willis in Unbreakable.
Yes.
But Flower's a murderer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a trained killing machine. He says in the next page, he says she was a trained killing machine.
Yeah.
But
she just murdered that poor girl in the dormitory.
Yeah, they have a martial arts escape from this tower in a bizarre tiny montage. It's on one page, and it's split up into like 30 panels of very rudimentary drawings of punching and kicking.
Mm-hmm.
They are blasted out of the building by Agent One. They go through the window. They land in the river. He comes up. She doesn't come up. He's like, "I'm going to look for her." And
his mother.
And his mother, yes. He's got to find his mother, who may
I guess now he's found the monk, he can look for his mother.
Yeah.
Maybe
and
he
that's
should have
how
been
it
looking
ends.
for her before.
It's like the beginning. It says the beginning. So it's like a to be continued ending where the sequel is going to be him looking for Flower, who should be in the river. And also looking for his mother.
This is like implying that this is where the journey of the Bulletproof Monk truly begins. Or that maybe they thought they were going to make more of these awful comics. Well, neither of those is true.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we did get a movie.
Yes, we did get a movie out of this in 2003. One of the producers, John Woo, shockingly, but I guess what was he? Oh no, it was Stephen Chow was a producer on Dragon Ball, which was the other.
No, that's right, the other Chow Yun-fat film that we've covered, because of course Chow Yun-fat is in this movie. He's now comic book movie Oblivion All-Star honorable mention,
right?
Because he was also in the Dragon Ball Evolution film.
Yeah. So he's not an All-Star yet.
Oh no, you're right. He's an honorable mention, not an All-Star. But I think that's as far as he'll advance.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a Flypaper Press production. That's one of the first credits we get, which is the name of a comic book company. It's a press. It's not a movie production company, but maybe it was some sneaky thing. So we start with a wuxia fight on this bridge. It's like in the mountains in Tibet. Really bad CG.
Yep, bad CG.
Some of the worst CG. Really looks like Neil Breen level, like somebody did this on their home computer kind of stuff. We learn it's Tibet in 1943, so 60 years before the release of the movie. This is Chow Yun-fat training with his master, and the master tells him that he has like fulfilled the 3 prophecies, which are like to fight under a sky of cranes.
Yeah, defeat an army under circling cranes.
Yeah.
Fight for love in a palace of jade.
Yeah.
And free a family and find a family, I think is the last one.
Yeah, something like that. So because he's done this, he is worthy, or he is the chosen to become the next protector of this mystical scroll, this ultimate scroll, it's a scroll which, I have questions about this, which we'll get to, but let's assume the scroll is the scroll. It's a scroll which will allow you ultimate power of some sort. And it's so dangerous that even the monks who protect it are not allowed to read it.
That's right, because it could make the world into a paradise or a hell. Right. But mankind is not ready. It's
Here's
a bit
my
like
question.
it's a bit like the prize in Highlander.
Oh, yes. Well, I think it's a bit like a lot of other things, but we'll get to that.
Well, it's a MacGuffin, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't really do anything.
It does. It comes into play at the end, which we'll talk about.
Hmm.
But I have my problem with this is if it's too dangerous that even the monks can't read it, aren't allowed to read it, why not destroy it?
Yep,
Why
that's
let it
my question
exist?
too.
Why protect it? Just get rid of the thing. Then you won't have to protect it because nobody's allowed to use it anyway.
That's right. That's my
okay.
thinking too. Yeah, and also, yeah, why keep it lying around?
Yes,
Put it in
exactly.
a hole.
Yeah, yeah.
Bury it.
So
And then come back 60 years and dig it up when you
So
need to
here's-
hand it over to your successor. What's more, okay, so maybe if they say mankind's not ready, so maybe one day mankind will be ready for the power of the scroll, and that's why they protect it. But they're protecting it in a dumb way.
Yes.
It's right in the middle of this monastery.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the master, who's about the same age as Chow Yun-fat, we'll call him Chow because he's only referred to as Monk. He doesn't have a name in the movie. That's the plot point, is that he doesn't have a name.
Well, his name is Monk.
His name is Monk, sure.
Because people address him as, they don't call him the monk or that monk. They call him Monk.
Yes.
Like they'll greet him or call out for him when they want him. Monk.
Yeah, like the Tony Shalhoub series, I guess. His name is Monk.
Yeah.
So
but he's meant to be nameless, yeah.
He's meant to be nameless. So he's about the same age as the Protector, but the Protector they do this kind of magical ceremony where he passes on the protectorship of the scroll. And there's some kind of like lights swirling around and stuff. And after he does that, the previous master becomes an old man. He ages 60 years in that moment.
Yep.
For some reason, this is a 60-year cycle. I know why in plot terms, because they need Nazis running around, and then they need to be 2003, and that's 60. So that's why. Yep. That's the only reason this is a 60-year cycle.
Yeah, but that's also these guys know that. I mean, these guys writing this, they know their stuff a lot better than the people writing the comic.
Yeah.
Because 60 years is the cycle of you can do a bunch of cycles of the Chinese zodiac in 60 years. So they do seven cycles of the year of the ram or something like that.
Right. Okay. So meanwhile, there's a little kid spying on the ceremony, like a little trainee monk.
He has a monkey with him, a very familiar monkey. This is the monkey that you see in a lot of late 90s, early 2000s era.
Is it the Friends monkey?
I think it's the Friends monkeys.
Okay.
Friends monkey, which of course is a capuchin monkey native to South America.
Yeah, monkey might have been Community as well.
Yeah, what's it doing in Tibet? A monkey from South America in 1940s Tibet.
By the way, also, we have this little kid who's a trainee monk, and later in the movie, Chow Yun-fat says that people aren't born monks, to imply that monks have a normal life and then go out and have sex and stuff. In his scene where he's giving romantic advice.
Yeah. Well, that's just a bit.
Yes, that is a bit.
But Chow Yun-fat, there seems to be a theme in the film that the scroll passes not to, it has to pass to someone worldly, that's kind of like savvy, because Chow Yun-fat, he calls him his master in this training sequence calls him the most undisciplined youth he'd ever laid eyes on.
Right. Okay, right.
And it's the same thing happens later on with Seann William Scott.
Yeah. So these Nazi soldiers attack the monastery. They're looking for the scroll. The monks, the warrior monks, are unable to defend themselves at all. They're just shot dead. I don't know why we got that whole amazing training scene, and then I guess maybe that's only Chow Yun-fat and the Protector are able to fight like that, because these guys just get shot dead.
Yeah, what's the point of them? I guess they're just regular monks.
Yeah,
that just happen to have a super monk living among them.
Yeah, why not have this whole place populated with super monks to protect the scroll?
Yeah, because we later find out. I mean, big spoilers here, but we later find out that more than one person can be a guardian of the scroll.
That's right.
So why not have a whole monastery full of monks that guard the scroll?
Yeah, or even just as guards, even if they're not official protectors, just have awesome fighters instead of guys that just cannot defend themselves.
Well, this is the guy, they're showing their work, the screenwriters. I hate to give them credit because this film's a big cliched mess, but Tibetan Buddhist monks don't fight. They're not like Shaolin monks.
Right.
They're non-violent.
Right. Okay, so now we get this. There's Chow Yun-fat does show up and does all this wuxia fighting against the Nazis, but
lots of wire work.
It's wire work, but this is a Hollywood production, which means every punch has 3 edits. Throwing the punch, middle of the punch, landing the punch. Every kick, start the kick, middle of the kick, end the kick. There's 3 cuts in there, and it is stupid and boring, and I hate it. I hate it. I want to see the full emotion. Otherwise, it is just Hollywood editing, and it's crap.
Well, we can't. Yeah, I mean, the editing in this is bad, and the direction as well is very anodyne, very bland.
Yep. Well, this guy
very
was
formulaic. So director Paul Hunter, he did music videos, and he's had a long career doing music videos for all sorts of people.
Yeah.
And he's directed some very kind of like famous and like big, kind of like elaborate, and I guess you'd say kind of like really cutting edge kind of music videos. Like he did like Marilyn Manson stuff. He did The Dope Show and videos like that. These are crazy music videos.
Yeah.
And yet this film is the opposite of crazy. It's so bland.
Yeah, it's the restriction that we see this all the time, right? As soon as they come to Hollywood production, the producers are on set and making sure everything is understandable and there's nothing too creative going on.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I
It's
think
interesting.
like,
The screenwriters actually blame Hunter himself. They say that he's maybe he was self-censoring almost. He thought he had to.
Yeah, I
He
don't
kept
know.
talking about wanting to do a family movie, about how this was going to be his mainstream, his big mainstream film. He wanted to do Spielberg. He wanted to do family, but he doesn't. He should have stuck to what he knows, because this film, as you said, it's awful. It combines the worst of Hollywood, excessive Hollywood action editing, with an insipid kind of family-friendly story and style.
Yeah.
And I was bored, just like you. I was bored to tears. I mean, the other reason, of course, is that Chow Yun-fat, people didn't know what to do with Chow Yun-fat in Hollywood.
That's right. Yeah.
And this film, of course, came out 3 years after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why he's doing
That's
Crouching Tiger.
But we do have a scene later in the movie where he's got 2 guns. And it's really, I think they don't understand Chow Yun-fat at all, because he's not an action movie star. Like he's not a beefcake. He has a very kind face. And when he saves that baby in Hard Boiled, it makes the most sense. You know what I mean? Like
he's very versatile. There's a reason he was like the biggest star in Asia.
And it's like he has that very kind smile and kind face. And when he saves that baby in Hard Boiled, you're like, of course he saves the baby. That's what this man would do. And it's kind of there's a contrast to him doing the machine gun stuff, because it's almost like it's the opposite of what his screen persona is, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So
I think
this film, he does get some moments to be kind of warm and mentally in this film.
Yes.
But it's combined with all of this kind of crappy wire work.
Yeah.
Unlike Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which is really, really well. The cinematography in that film is really good.
The best. Yeah.
And even a guy that doesn't know martial arts like Chow Yun-fat could be made to look like.
That's right.
It's the kind of the fact that he never does anything flamboyant.
Yeah.
Indicates his mastery in that film, because he barely has to move in order to dominate everybody.
They just soar. Yes, they just soar. They just soar across the trees. It's one smooth motion to the next. He's not a Jet Li, right?
No. Well, he doesn't do martial arts.
That's right. But, exactly.
And so, as Li Mubai, he doesn't have anything ostentatious, because he's the ultimate master. He can just move a foot slightly and it throws everyone off.
Yeah.
But in this, of course, they want him to do action. So we want Chow Yun-fat, the guy from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, this huge movie. He's going to be doing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon stuff all the time, and he's not a martial artist. So instead, we have to have a dozen cuts. We have to have really obvious stunt people coming in for him all the time, who are like a head shorter than he is, because he's 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
So it's so bad.
Yeah. So now we cut to the present, and we meet Seann William Scott, who is our hero. He's a
sorry, Kumar, I gotta go back. Sorry, man.
Okay.
I'm so sorry to do this to you, but there's so much in this scene at the temple. There's so much.
Oh, I missed a bunch of stuff. You're right. Absolutely way ahead. I should have.
So we meet Strucker, the villain.
That's right. Oh my God. Yes, the Nazi, the head Nazi.
Yeah. So we've seen him before. This is the peak of his career when he was playing creepy foreign wizard weirdos because he was also Rasputin in the first Hellboy.
No way.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hold on tight to that tab. Leave that tab open because we're coming back to that big time when we get to the
Excellent.
end.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear that. He, for some reason, he blows a big horn at one point.
Yeah.
No real reason.
Yeah.
He, yeah. As you said, the Chow Yun-fat, the monk, takes out the rest of the Nazis. Then he and Strucker's sort of just pulls out a gun and starts shooting at him and says this great line, "You may be good, but you're not bulletproof." Tell me, Kamal, what's the film called?
It's called Bulletproof Monk. So we're building up something, but the crazy thing here was he knows that Monk has the scroll in his top.
Yep.
And then Bulletproof Monk is standing at the edge of a cliff. Chow Yun-fat standing at the end of a cliff, and he shoots him so that he falls over the cliff. What was Strucker's plan to get the scroll?
Yeah, exactly.
Because after he goes over the cliff, he can't find the body, or he looks over the edge and he can't see him.
And then
I'm like, how did you think you were going to get this thing back? Were you going to go down the cliff and find this
He's
body?
He's all that's left of the exhibition now because the monk's sort of taken out the rest of the Nazis.
Yeah.
What was he going to do?
He was going to walk down the cliff, and the scroll was going to be in perfect condition. What was he thinking? This is bizarre. This is much like the plan in the Captain America, the Albert Pion's Captain America we watched, where like, what is this Nazi doing? Why does he cut off his hand? Why does he cut off Captain America's hand?
Oh, God,
all that kind of stuff.
That's a blast from the past. What was that, like the sixth one we did?
Something like that. Okay, so now he's like.
Don't forget where he yells out. Don't forget this fantastic line here. So we're following up "You're not bulletproof" in the film called Bulletproof Monk. Incidentally, no, the Bulletproof Monk is never bulletproof. He's not bulletproof in the comic.
That's right.
He's not bulletproof in the movie.
He's not. But there was that.
At least he's a monk in the movie.
I think there was the martial arts concept of a person that could train themselves, like a Shaolin that could train himself to the point where he could even take a bullet and survive it. I think that's what the concept was, and then they forgot when they were writing the comic.
They just came up with a cool name, and everything just went from there.
They just forgot about it.
Yeah, and don't forget that Strucker, after he shoots the monk and the monk falls down, he calls after him, "Monk."
Yes, monk.
Monk. And then he yells at the heavens. He goes, "Monk."
Yes. Yes.
It was hilarious.
Then we cut to the subway.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. Present day subway. Seann William Scott is a pickpocket. He's just stealing, from everybody that he passes. A cop tries to, like a plainclothes cop tries to catch him, and he like turns the tables on him and handcuffs the cop to a railing. Then we up on the street, Chow Yun-fat is there, same age. He hasn't aged in 60 years because of the magic. And he's reading a newspaper which has a headline that says "Secret Agent Hero saves 3 from fire" or something like that.
Yep.
Which I thought was hilarious.
Or is it something like Asian man saves 3 from
Asian
fire.
man saves 3. I love that but he's the secret agent hero now, and he's being pursued by some kind of guys in suits. They look like Secret Service.
Sort of plain clothes operatives.
Well, not plain. They're very obvious, like dudes.
Oh, they're wearing suits, aren't they? Yeah, not plain clothes at all.
And black sunglasses, most of them. And there's a chase. They chase him down into the subway where Seann William Scott is. They kind of bump into each other, and this little girl falls onto the tracks. So they need their combined efforts of Seann William Scott and Monk to rescue this girl, and she kind of magically appears back on the platform. And
it's not clear how that works. And then we cut to
it's implied that it's the monk's secret powers because he seems to be strong enough to lift the rail of the
Yes, he does. He uses some kind of wizardry on it.
Yeah,
because we see it unscrewing itself. I think
that's right. So,
but it also really is not really clear what's going on here. The girl's on the platform, and then Seann William Scott and the monk are walking through in another tunnel with no trains in it. And it's how did they get there? There was a train about to run them over. The girl's back on the platform. They're somewhere else.
And then he's like, "How did you do that?" And then Chow gives him some advice about he says you shouldn't steal or something. I can't remember what this whole conversation was. The whole movie is very hard for me to follow.
He says he needs to focus on what was it? He needs to focus. he says, I lost my stash, or I lost my today's take because I was rescuing that girl.
Yes, that's right.
And he goes, well, you saved a life though. And then
That's right. That's
Stifler
right.
says, yeah, well, last time I checked, that doesn't pay. And then the
Right.
monk says, you should focus more on the spiritual rewards and less on the financial. The
Right.
film's full of stuff like that. I must say,
Yes.
it's a little bit easier to swallow than the stuff from the comic.
It is, absolutely. So maybe I think part of it is Chow Yun-fat, whose performance
He's very
is actually
charismatic.
good,
Yeah.
good in this bad movie.
Yep.
Really,
He is.
you can't take your eyes off him. He's really great. And so he gives, and I would say even Stifler is not bad for being a one-note kind of actor. He's all right.
Oh, I'm fine with his performance.
Yeah.
It's just
So
it's more the lines that he has and the
Yes, that's right. So I think it was Chow was like, give me a hug or something like that. And he hugs him and he steals something from his satchel. Sorry, Stifler steals something from the monk's satchel, which we learn in a later scene is the scroll.
Yes.
We've got to come back to this. So he's stolen the scroll from the monk. Then he
Yep.
goes and he's confronted by this gang, this underground gang that seems to be living in the subway.
This is
and the
so
gang
good.
This is wild. This guy's the leader of the gang is this British guy named Funktastic who never wears a shirt and is Mr. Funktastic tattooed on his chest.
Yeah.
And anytime anyone says a sentence involving Funktastic, it is hilarious. Like, I never thought you'd be able to do that to Funktastic. Like that kind of thing. It's like, what?
And then later on, when the love interest gets them to stop beating on Stifler by saying that she wants to sleep with Mr. Funktastic, he says this crumpet's begging for some of my Funktastic love.
Yes, 100%.
So funny.
It is,
but not the reason that they wanted it to be funny. It's just so funny.
No.
Incidentally, I have shocking data relevant to Mr. Funktastic.
Oh, okay.
In the original draft of the screenplay, in this podcast I listen to, the writers, the screenwriters, they really want you to know that the film, their script got toned down.
Okay.
They claim to have written something a lot more edgy. They keep using the word edgy.
Okay.
They keep saying Raiders of the Lost Ark meets Train Spotting was another thing as way they described it.
Okay.
They're very much cool and cutting edge. Just a lot of buzzwords, maybe that have a lot of traction when they're sitting in some producer's office.
Right.
Anyway, as evidence of this, Mr. Funktastic's original name was Mr. Fucktastic.
Wow. Wow.
And Kumar, that was a late change. And if you go back and you pause the film and you look at his tattoo, it actually says Mr. Fucktastic.
Oh, that is awesome.
It's just they've only left in shots where his necklace is covering the relevant part, so you can only sort of see F and a K. But originally it was Mr. F-U-K-tastic, so no C.
Wow. But I have to say though, Funktastic is a funnier name for all those lines that they have to give.
I can't believe he's called Funktastic. Yeah, amazing.
So this guy's like, hey, you can't pickpocket people on my turf. You have to pay, you have to pay a commission kind of thing. So they're like, look through his bag. They look through his stash. The only thing he's got is the scroll, and they knock it out. So it lands.
Well, Stifler tries to give it to Mr. Funktastic.
That's right.
And he's not interested in it because he's stupid and he doesn't know what he's got.
Yeah, he thinks it's like a tourist thing, like.
Yeah, and he throws it away, and then the monk who is watching picks it back up.
Yeah. Okay, now here's the big question for me, and I was watching this with my son Ashton, who's been on the podcast many times. I was like, well, why did the protector of the scroll let the scroll be stolen? Shouldn't he have been protecting that scroll? And then Ashton said, well, I think he let him steal the scroll.
Yeah, that's it.
Kind of cast, but why let him steal? Why not let him steal something else? Let him steal your wallet or something. Why the scroll? Why let that out of your sight?
Yeah, good question. Well, we do find out why.
Well, we sort of do, but even then, that only works for the audience. It doesn't work for the people in the movie.
Yeah. Well, it's a test. I mean, he never really let it out of his sight, did he? Because he was shadowing.
No. But so we learn later that the scroll this is a fake. Okay.
Fine, yes, but you're right. But we didn't know that it was a fake then. But I don't think it matters because the monk's there all the time.
Yes, but I'm saying why not? Why does it matter to Stifler that he steals the scroll? It doesn't. He's looking for a wallet. You know what I mean? Let him steal a wallet and then go follow him and see how he does in a fight with the guys in the subway.
I hear what you're saying.
Why let him steal a copy of the scroll? He doesn't know what the scroll is. He doesn't
it
think he's
doesn't
stealing the original scroll because he doesn't know anything about it. He's
it
never heard of
doesn't
it.
make sense from a real world perspective, I agree. But
Right.
from the screenwriting 101 perspective,
Yes,
it's to
of
show us
course.
that the monk has the scroll still.
Of course, of course. And now we get this. He gets in a big fist fight, and we learn that he can fight because the camera runs in fast forward half the time.
It's
It's not
awful.
just the wires; it's fast forward, and there's triple cuts for every punch and every kick.
like Stifler apparently worked hard to get into shape and to
Oh yeah,
learn.
he is ripped, absolutely ripped in at this period of time because he was in that Rock movie as well, the Run Around or the Rundown. Welcome to the
Welcome to
Jungle.
the Jungle.
In some regions, and
Him
he
and
takes his
James
shirt off
King.
of that, and he's ripped.
Yeah. And the love interest, Jade, who's
Yeah.
played by James King, who we'll get to, she's also in incredible shape. And they spent a few months working 6 hours a day to learn martial
Jesus.
arts. And
Holy-
it's wasted because you can't see what they're doing.
You cannot see the punches. She actually does the scorpion kick, which Carrie-Anne Moss did in the second Matrix, where she leans forward and kicks with one leg over the back of her head.
Yeah, she
And
does.
I think Carrie-Anne Moss had to train like 6 months to do that kick. Like she trained very hard, and I was surprised to see it in this.
Yeah, she's in amazing shape.
Yeah.
Jaime King.
Yeah.
Sometimes goes by James King, even though she's
Right.
a lady. Yeah.
Okay.
Since we're talking about her, she's an honorable mention as well because she
Okay.
was Goldie in Sin City.
No way. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Which
Good
means
pickup.
she's also in Sin City too. So
Okay.
if we ever cover that, A Dame to Kill For,
Yeah.
she will reach all-star status.
Okay. We'll talk about what the meaning of all stars. But anyway, that's another conversation.
Don't you need three? You need three, right, to be an
You need
all-star?
three, but I think it has to be three characters because otherwise, the characters in Blondie would be blowing everyone else out of the water. I think it's going to be three
Well,
different characters.
You have to cover they have to appear in an episode of the podcast as well.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Anyway.
the rule.
Okay,
That's the
so we get this.
restriction.
They get this fight. She's one of the gang. She's the only female there, as far as I can tell. And
Yeah.
she fights. She's got a necklace that Stifler steals off of her during the fight. He automatically is like, "Wow, you're beautiful. You're beautiful, and you're angry." All this stupid stuff. The
Yeah,
first
just
time
the
he's late
line,
late
the
eyes on
dialogue is
woman.
really cringeworthy.
I mean, she is beautiful, but she's beating the shit out of him.
He's just met her.
Crazy. He hasn't even met her. She just punched him in the face.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
He's like, "You're beautiful. You're beautiful.
You're
and
so
you're angry."
damn beautiful, he says.
Yeah, you're so damn beautiful. And then he steals her necklace. Okay, and meanwhile, Chow Yun-fat notices that there's like construction cranes or something like overhead, and that's like the first prophecy. He will defeat an army under a sky of cranes.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I wonder."
They're not
this
really
made me-
cranes, they're more like winches. But
Right.
oh, whatever.
But it did make me wonder, did he let him steal the scroll? Because it seems like he's surprised. He's surprised about the crane. He's not like, I was expecting this guy to fulfill the prophecy. I saw potential in him. No, he's like, this rando stole my scroll.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Wait a second. There's cranes overhead. Could it be? It's like, this is the
you're
moment
right.
we're starting to realize.
That's how it's
So-
played. That doesn't make sense that he let him steal the scroll then.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, you're
Okay,
right.
so after the fight, he catches up with him again, and he says, "Where did you learn to fight?" He says, "At the Golden Palace." And he's like, "Oh, you trained with those monks there?" And Stifler's like, "Whatever." And Stifler goes, and we learn that he's a projector at this cinema called the Golden Palace, which shows, as far as I can tell, the greatest movies ever made. It's all sorts of old school Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest movies
Yep.
at this place.
Yep.
And it's run by this Japanese guy. I love that they actually pointed out that this is a plot point and that the screenwriters just didn't know the difference. There's actually a line where this guy Kojima is like, "Why is a Japanese guy running a Chinese theater?"
Yep, they're aware. As I said, these guys, Reiff and Voris, the screenwriters, they're the guys behind Kung Fu Panda. So they're now incredibly
okay.
rich and successful.
Okay, good. All right.
They and Voris, I think he has lived and worked in China. Even though this film's terrible, they know their stuff.
Okay.
Incidentally, I'm surprised you didn't pick up on this, Kumar, but not only is the projectionist Japanese, but he's also a famous Japanese actor.
He seemed familiar. Who was he?
It's Mako
Oh.
from Conan.
No way. Well, see, this movie is bad, but it's got a lot of pluses. It's got a lot of stuff in the plus column.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was so
That is
thrilled to
pretty
see
great.
him. Yeah, it was
That
cool.
is pretty great. Okay, so that's another great pickup, much like Recipe there. All right. So, but again, Chow Yun-fat shows up at Stifler's place where he's living in the cinema. He's got a little room upstairs, a little dive.
Yeah,
And
he
he's-
lives in the loft.
And
Or
he's
the
like,
attic,
"You're
or
a
whatever you
clumsy,"
call it.
yeah, he's like, "You're a clumsy fighter. Fight me." So they have a little fight up there, which is a bit like the fight with Nicolas Cage in Jiu-Jitsu. He's got this bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
I think it's Cocoa Puffs, and he's
Yeah.
like holding the bowl without spilling it because
Yeah.
he's on wires and like moving around, kind of Matrix style kind of
It
stuff.
would look great if they didn't cut so much.
It would be a good little scene. And finally, he beats Carr, so they have a sit down, and Carr tells his backstory. He says his name is Cantonese. He's taken on this name because he's a movie buff, much like Christian Slater in True Romance. He just watches these Asian movies all the time. These Chinese
Well,
movies.
that's where he's learned to fight, just by
That's where
copying
he's learned to fight,
their
and where he's taken on his name, which he says means
family.
It means family, right?
Yeah, it actually does. Gar. And Chow Yun-fat actually corrects his pronunciation, because Chow
I like
Yun-fat
that
speaks
too.
Cantonese fluently, of course.
Yeah, I like that bit too. So Chow Yun-fat stays the night in Stifler's house in his little apartment. Now we cut to this human rights organization, which is called Human Rights Organization, which I thought was the funniest name for a human rights organization.
We also we get possibly the greatest line in cinema history later on, involving human rights organization.
Right.
Like this line, I just love it. I can't wait to come back. Anyway, keep going. We'll come back to that.
So it's the opening of this exhibit, like a gallery exhibit of like atrocities around the world. Yep. And this woman comes out, this blonde woman comes out, and she starts giving this speech about the Human Rights Organization and what they do. And this is the opening of the gala, right? And she's at the top of this platform, and then suddenly she's continuing the speech down on the ground where the people are. And then the speech is done, probably, I'm going to say 20 to 30 seconds, this opening speech for this massive event. And then people applaud her. I think, what order does this happen in? The old Nazi shows up, right? Stucker.
Yep. Now he's old. Yeah.
Oh no, that's later. So the girl shows up, right? We don't learn her name for a long time. Her name is Jade, but this is the girl from the gang. She shows up very nicely dressed at this gala.
Yep.
For some reason, and we don't know why this girl that was seemingly living in the sewers is now coming up here and confronting this woman who's running it, saying that shouldn't you be showing, like, instead of showing all these atrocities, you should be showing the world becoming better or whatever.
Yes.
And they have a bit of a confrontation about this. War of words. He leaves. Then this Stucker shows up, but he's an old man now. He's 60 years old.
And she wheels him down to an underground lair.
He's collaborating. Yeah, they have an underground lair. So this girl, the woman that's running the Human Rights Organization, is actually a baddie.
She's the granddaughter of
Stucker.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And he's running the show, so he presumably runs the Human Rights Organization. It looks like.
Yes.
He's providing the money. If he's providing the money, why does he live in the sewers?
I don't know. They have a very elaborate underground layer here.
There are 3 different separate underground layers in this film.
Yeah.
There's.
Oh yeah, because even the bad guys have the thugs, like the pickpockets, have an elevator.
Yeah.
Like this kind of open elevator goes up and down. It's crazy. I laughed so hard when that showed up.
Funktastic's crib is a very elaborate underground layer. The Nazis have one under the Human Rights Organization building. Yeah. And later on, we find out that the Tibetan monks also have an underground lair in New York. So I'm surprised there's any room under New York with all the underground lairs we've got going on down there.
Yeah, absolutely. So
incidentally, you mentioned that the movie theater, the Golden Palace movie theater, shows all the coolest movies. Apparently, when that set was first designed, they found a movie theater and they dressed it up to make it into the Golden Palace. Apparently the art department just made fake movie posters.
Okay.
Of pretend, kind of like rip-off movies, like with Chuck Norris that didn't exist. Right. And the screenwriters apparently came in and they based the Golden Palace off the old cinemas that used to be in Chinatown when they lived in New York. Right. And they said, this is ridiculous. You don't need fake movie posters. Mm-hmm. These look stupid. Just get actual movie posters of classic kind of Shaw Brothers movies. Yeah. And apparently John Woo sorted it out because he
Okay.
because he directed half those movies. So.
Right. Right.
So they just said this is not a problem, and they got all the posters and they stuck them all up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. It's good that the screenwriters still had some say at that stage.
They both said that this was the film where they were the only film that they've ever done where they were involved from start to finish.
Right.
So
Okay.
from the pitch to the screenwriting to to production to post, they were every point they were kind of involved.
Huh.
They said they basically did producer work but without a producer's salary, is what they said.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so meanwhile, back the next day, Chow Yun-fat has taken off. He's left the apartment.
Yeah.
But he's chased by these suits again. And this is the scene where he grabs two guns and starts shooting at them with the two guns. He's flipping around, doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Stifler catches up with him. I can't remember what the sequence was there. I think the girl
Well, Stifler was
also
out doing
confronted them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Stifler was
girl-
out pickpocketing, and Chow Yun-fat makes him give back the thing he stole.
Yes, he wants him to return the necklace to Jade.
Yes.
But Jade actually is also looking for a necklace, and she's done some inquiries and found out where Stifler is. So she finds him on the
Yep.
street. Then she's like, "Give me back my necklace." The monk is there.
It turns
she
out she
actually
speaks
speaks-
Tibetan.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, of course,
I'm not
because
sure
why
if that's
not?
ever explained, but anyway.
Oh, well, actually, there is a little nod to it a little later on that I'll mention.
Okay. So they have to run
But
away
she's
from
just
these.
competent. This is another thing.
Yes.
This is another case of this is kind of like The Crow, where really the power should have gone to the woman.
Right.
Because because she's like way more competent than
Yes.
and
Yes.
deserving
Yep. Yep.
than the man is.
The man who learned martial arts through watching movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And
okay.
she speaks Tibetan. She's like she does kung fu way better than Stifler. Why didn't she? I mean, in this film's defense, she kind of does end up with the power.
Yep. Yep. So Stifler and Chow Yun-fat have to escape from these suits that are attacking them, and they go into this underground facility where all these monks are, these Tibetan monks.
Yeah.
Not in any disguise or anything. They're just monks living underground in New York.
Why do they live underground? Because these guys love underground lairs for some reason.
Super great question. I guess it's illegal. They're going to be caught by Nazis. I don't know why. Yeah, why are they
There's
hiding?
no reason
What are they
for
worried
them to be
about?
underground.
No, there's
It's
no
perfectly
reason.
reasonable for Tibetan monks to not be living in Tibet.
Yeah.
Because of
Yeah.
because the Dalai Lama himself doesn't live in Tibet.
Yeah.
But as for living in a hole in the ground, though, no reason.
By the way, I have to say this movie will not get made in 2024 because they would be worried about how are we going to get those Chinese dollars, and they would change the location from Tibet to some other thing, right? Because they did with Doctor Strange, right? Doctor Strange, they moved it from Tibet because they were like, we need those Chinese dollars.
Did they move it from Tibet in Doctor
They
Strange?
did, absolutely, absolutely.
Where's the
It's not
ancient one from in Doctor Strange?
I can't remember. They changed it to some made-up country, or they didn't mention it.
I
But
don't
it's
know.
100% not Tibet.
Because, I mean, the communists were the baddies in Bulletproof Monk the comic.
Yeah.
But here in Bulletproof Monk the movie, it's the Nazis.
That's right.
And
That's true.
So, again, maybe this is the dark side of knowing a lot about China, is that they've made sure not to antagonize the Chinese by mentioning that aspect. What's more,
Yes.
the senior monk, the one that passes on his powers to Chow Yun-fat, he specifically mentions, he says he wants a holiday. He says, I want to do what I've wanted to do ever since 1904, take a holiday. And Chow Yun-fat's like, what happened in 1904? And the guy's like, that's when the British invaded. It's like, most people don't know that the British invaded Tibet in 1904.
Right.
But I tell you who does know, Chinese people, because it's a
Yeah.
big part of kind of like nationalist propaganda in China.
Yeah.
So I wonder, maybe this movie might get made now, but it might be even more pro CCP.
Yeah, right. So they meet these monks. Like the head monk is like, "Are you sure about this young stripling you've brought in here? He seems undisciplined, all this kind of stuff." Okay, blah blah. Now we get a training scene where Chow trains Stifler. It looks a lot like the Neo training scene with
Yes, it
Morpheus
does.
in the Matrix. But again, that scene was in Matrix was drawing from all those Shaw Brothers movies as well.
Mhm.
So it's just part of this continuity, right? Going
Here,
back.
Chow Yun-fat says that he can teach Stifler to fly.
Yeah.
So to do the
Right.
the
To walk on
wuxia
air.
thing,
Yeah.
to walk on the air.
Yeah.
Incidentally, this is not Bulletproof Monk power. This has nothing to do with the scroll.
Right.
You can
That's
just
right.
learn to
You can just
walk on
learn.
the air.
By the way, it also means that the wuxia moves are literally happening.
Yeah.
They're not like a representation of the awesomeness of the martial art. They are actually flying across rooms and doing stuff
Yes,
like that, right?
they are.
As in the Matrix was like, we're literally going to fly. It was like literalizing those wuxia, the wire work moves.
It's kind of like Peter Pan, because
Yes.
because Chow Yun-fat's like, you just have to believe.
Yes.
And we even get a scene
Yes.
later on where Stifler believes hard enough to run up a wall
That's
after
right.
fucking it up a couple of times.
That's right. Yeah.
That scene sucks.
Yeah. Okay, so they are doing this fight in a warehouse where I'm like, where is this warehouse?
Yeah.
It's not in the underground, right? They're above ground. And in fact, a helicopter with a Gatling gun shows up outside the window. I don't know how they were found.
How were they found?
Right?
Don't know.
They were in a secret underground monk monastery. Then they were in a warehouse. How did they get found? Never revealed. They get shot at by the chopper. Chow Yun-fat has to say, "Get down," and push him down away from the windows, which happens twice in this movie. And then there's this big fight on the roof, and Chow Yun-fat says, "Take the scroll." Why does he give the scroll to the untrained disciple? I don't know. Because not only that, he loses the scroll. He drops it onto the street, and then the Nazis just pick it up off the street. And I'm like, why did you give him that scroll? Why don't you hold on to that scroll?
Yeah, you can fly.
It's your job. You have one job. Protect
Your
that
job
scroll.
is to look
And
after
you
that
gave
scroll.
and you just handed it over to this guy for no reason.
Well, then we find out, of course, that it's not the real scroll.
That it's a fake. It's just a recipe. And we find out that the scroll is the words of the scroll actually tattooed onto Chow Yun-fat's chest. Remember, the monks are not allowed to read the scroll. And he's reading it every day in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah, and yes, that's right. And also, yeah. So you can read the scroll. I guess you just don't read it out loud. And also,
maybe
it's you have to if you read part of the scroll but not the whole scroll, you become a bulletproof monk.
Yes.
So again, it's like we said earlier, why not just get all the monks to read just that part of the scroll, and then you'll have a whole monastery full of bulletproof monks.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so well, we know that monks can turn bad, actually. It's real.
You're right.
Very soon
That's coming.
Monks can turn traitor. So now, because they've got a fake scroll, the Nazis go after Kojima at his cinema, and they abduct, or they killed him. They kill him on site. They're trying to get information about where Gar is because they think Gar...
There's a strange bit where it's Nina, the granddaughter, and she comes in. She claims she pretends to be the Department of Health. Why?
Yeah.
And then she says, "I know Carr lives here," and then he says, "Just get lost. I'm going to call the cops." Or he says, "No, I've never heard of Carr." And then she said, "Oh yeah, maybe this will change your mind." And then she sort of bangs down a reel of film. I don't understand why what this reel of film signifies.
This is the film that showed that Agent 1 killed Leader.
Oh, very good. Yeah,
that's all the proof that's needed, I guess.
We never see that we do, and then again when Stifler and the monk return to the Golden Palace and they can't find Kojima, Stifler sees that roll of film and does a double take again, like it means something.
Yeah,
but
did we miss something bizarre?
I rewound it back. It's barely you barely see it.
Yeah,
and it just sort of says a film title on it, and that's all.
Yeah,
maybe there was a dialogue line in there that got cut. Apparently, this got a lot of cuts. Apparently, too. We'll talk about it in a bit.
Oh yeah, we will talk about it because there's a scene coming up that really confused me. But so the monastery, the secret monastery, is raided by the suits who are actually Nazis. Once again, these monks are unable to defend themselves in any way. They're just immediately defeated. They put up no fight at all. Which I guess is maybe they are Tibetan monks and not Shaolin monks. Maybe
except one of them is being trained as the successor to Chow Yun-fat, the nameless monk.
Yes, that's right. One will be the next protector.
So there must be some kind of training involved that's occurring because they have a candidate.
Yes, that's
Uh,
right. That is right.
and
Oh yeah,
he
so that
and
guy has to be as good as Chow Yun-fat was when he had that fight on the bridge at the
that's
opening scene.
it. But
Right?
unfortunately, he's the one that betrayed
He's the
them to
traitor.
the
He's the traitor.
Nazis because he
Right.
wants
So
the
they're,
scroll. He's not
so they're
prepared to
trying to
wait.
find out where the real scroll is. So they've kidnapped some of the monks, and now we learn that the Nazis have a torture machine
Yep.
which can read thoughts.
Yeah.
It's like this high-tech machine. Why do you need the scroll? Don't worry, you have the best technology in the world. Why not just use this to take over the world?
Well, it's
We
very
can read
vague what
people's
this
thoughts.
machine actually does. It
It
does
can
seem
actually
to.
read thoughts, so that is revealed that it can through some hydro system, water flushes in.
It's like the machine in Princess Bride,
Mhm.
except way lamer.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
you remember the machine that sucks away life?
Yeah.
It has all, ominous water running through pipes every time it operates. Anyway,
Mhm.
there's water running through pipes when this machine operates too. They say engage hydro systems or something like that, and
Yeah.
then water runs through the pipes. Incidentally, it seems to be powered by torture as well,
Yes.
because
Yes, that's right.
they chain up the other monks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the monks that they've kidnapped, they chain them up in these torture machines.
Yeah.
And then you put someone in the main chair of the torture machine, and then
Mhm.
that person gets their mind read. And it seems to be
That's
powered
right.
by both water and human suffering.
Yeah. And it's all done. And it's all done on computer monitors, so you can see like the thoughts being projected out. But I don't know what the output would be. Would
Yeah.
you see their
Because they
thoughts?
don't
Would it be
use it.
text? They
They
don't
don't
use it for
use
that.
it.
They
It's
just
never used.
we just get a projection of rays coming out of the head to show that it is working or not working or whatever. But
Well, they use it on the traitor monk, but
Yeah.
for fun, because they don't get
Yeah.
anything out of him.
That's right. That's right. Because he doesn't know where the scroll is.
I don't think this machine really does not read minds at all. I think that just Strucker's just gone a bit senile, and he's just zapping people.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe because later on he's in full uniform. He's in a wheelchair, but he's in full Nazi uniform, and I'm not sure why, except out of pride, maybe. Anyway, for some reason, Stifler and the monk decide to go to Jade's house.
Well, they've got nowhere else to go because the monk has no
Okay,
home.
that's right. But
the monastery's been raided.
I don't know how they knew where she lived, but she lives in a giant mansion,
It's
and
because Mako took a message and he
oh,
put it
that's
on the
right. That's right.
board
Sorry, yes, that's
from
right.
Bad
That's right.
Girl. She calls
That's
herself Bad Girl. We still don't know
She
her
calls her
name.
Bad Girl. We don't know her name because there's a big reveal about the name coming up in the next scene. So they sneak into her giant mansion, and it turns out she is the daughter of a Russian gangster.
Well, I just before I've got some stuff to say. So first of all, they're outside this huge mansion which is heavily guarded.
Okay.
And Stiff is like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
It's a very Stifler kind of line. "What the hell is this?" And the monk says, "Well, we should let's go in. Where else? What better place to hide than a huge mansion surrounded by armed guards?"
Yeah.
And they then jump the fence. Incidentally, the fence has a security camera on top, and they jump the fence right in front of the security camera.
Yeah. And that never plays out in any way.
It never does. I think they just forgot that security camera was in shot. Then we have the hilarious sequence where Stifler runs into a wall 3 or 4 times trying to activate his floating powers.
Yeah.
He eventually does it. They go into a room. This is just one room in a giant mansion, but somehow they've got lucky enough to find Bad Girl's room on the first try.
Yeah.
And in Bad Girl's room, there are some things to show that, she keeps like venomous insects and snakes. So she's really edgy.
Yeah.
And also on her desk is a copy. Sorry, that was a premature ring. On her desk is a copy of Nicholas Rerich's diaries of his travels in the Himalayas. Nicholas Rerich is a famous kind of Russian Buddhist and spiritualist.
Yeah.
This was very funny to see because his painting, he went on a kind of like a long trek through Asia, and he did many famous paintings of the Himalayas. And he is mentioned by name in The Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay, we have to do ding 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 because we're remote, so we don't have the physical bell.
That's the trifecta, Kumar. We've had an Alan Moore, we've
by
had
accident.
a Dune, and we've had a Lovecraft reference.
Yes, but Alan Moore was by accident.
That's close enough.
Okay.
Close enough.
Okay, all three. That's pretty good.
So his paintings partly inspired the novella at the Mountains of Madness.
Oh wow! Okay, that's pretty amazing. Oh, and that explains her speaking
Yes,
Tibetan a little
that
bit.
explains
Okay,
it. Yeah.
all right, that's cool. So he has a martial arts fight with her in this house. Again, it's really bad. But then Monk is captured because again they're found in her house. Now,
Wait, first we have the prophecies revealed in the lamest way possible.
that's right, because it's he will fight for love in Jade's house, and her name is Jade. We learned that her name is Jade in this scene. So it's like that's the second bit of the prophecy. I have a couple of questions here. So we learned that she's the daughter of a Russian gangster. Why is she investigating this human rights organization?
Yeah.
What is her motive for that? Does she suspects they're Nazis? Even so, why not report this to authorities? Why is she doing this?
Was she investigating them, or was she just doing socialite stuff, showing up at it?
No, because here she's like, they've got this whole underground Nazi
You're
thing
right.
going on.
She
She knows
was
all that
investigating
stuff.
it. You're right. You're right.
Why? What's her? Is there some missing backstory here about my dad was thrown in jail by these Nazis that are running this organization? No, there's none of that.
Well, her dad's like a Russian mobster. He's like,
Yeah, and he's
Ivan
in
the
jail.
Terrible.
He's in jail.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, then the Nazis show up. Somehow they've stormed this heavily guarded mob fortress.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Bulletproof Monk is shot in the neck with a tranquilizer dart.
Yes, and they take him in.
So he's not tranquilizer dart proof monk.
No,
He takes away,
not.
and for some reason, for no good reason, they leave Stifler and Jade alive.
That's
They just
right.
walk off and leave them there. They're not even tied up.
That's right.
And then they get up, and they get up. They go down to her garage where she has a bulletproof car because her dad's a mobster, and also cupboards full of dynamite.
Yeah, because she was planning to attack these Nazis.
And then she is maybe, because this is the bit where she says like, well, let's go get the monk, and Stifler says, well, what do you mean? We don't know where he is. And she goes, I know where they are. And now we get the best line ever. I can't believe someone wrote this line.
Okay.
My dad always told me that the best place to hide is the last place they would expect. And the human rights organization is the last place anyone would ever expect to find some of the biggest human rights abusers in history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God, I can't believe they wrote that line.
Yeah. So they go to try to rescue him, and there's a moment here where Stifler, they find this like sewer cover, like a manhole cover or something, and he says the monk is down here. I can feel it. He can just feel it.
Yeah, why can he feel
that
it?
the monk is down there.
He doesn't have the powers yet.
Now,
he can
fly. The monk is tied up to the machine, and the Nazi wants the power of the scroll so that he can become young again, and so that he can wipe out all the inferior races.
Yeah,
right.
He wants to make plan. Earth. He wants the hell on Earth option.
Right. So here's my thing. We're tying up the hero to a machine to steal his powers. I'm thinking Blade. I'm thinking Hellboy. I'm thinking TMNT Mutant Mayhem. Same thing in all three, where the hero is tied up, their powers drained, and the villain becomes a blood god, right? Or Rasputin, same actor, same plan, same climax. Tied to a machine, drains his power, he becomes a super Nazi, but we learned that the scroll is not complete. The rest of it, Monk has memorized.
Yeah, so this is an option. You can memorize the scroll.
That's right. That's right.
Why do you even need a scroll?
Yeah, that's right. Why even copy part of it onto your chest? And in fact, we learned that it's not copied by tattoo.
It's magic.
Shortly. Yeah, that's right.
It's a magic.
That's right. Which, okay, well, we have to get it to, but basically there's a fight with our blood god, the super Nazi. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say that he's in the machine, but the machine never does anything. They don't use it.
No, in fact, he somehow gets out of it. I think a Stifler throws the Nazi or someone against the control panel. The control panel shatters and it unlocks the bindings.
Instead, all they do is they just tie him in the torture device so that they can look at so she can photocopy Nina, the evil Nazi granddaughter, kind of like creeps on the monk.
Yes.
She like takes off his pants and
Nina does. Yes, and there's a lot of jokes about how far down do these tattoos go because they're on his belly, and she unzips them and she's like, "Oh, all the way down there. This is going to be a big job," she says. What a bizarre
I guess this
comment.
is left over from the edgy screenplay that they kept
Did we have
talking
this in
about.
another movie where there was a comment about I've got to do this big job? I feel like we've done this on the podcast before.
Well, it's been in every. It's just so yeah.
Yeah.
Except this guy's a monk.
Yes. Yes. But we learned that people aren't born monks, as he says when he's
Well,
giving
he used
stuff
to
for
he used to
romantic
get around
advice.
before he became
used
a
to
monk,
get around.
apparently.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she just photocopies the text, and then you're right, it's exactly like Blade because it's even similar. Like
And
the text
Hellboy.
is all flashing up on the
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking specifically of the vampire language
Yeah.
translation.
Yeah, the vampire language.
machine.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
yeah.
exactly like that, except it's Tibetan. And Strucker can read Tibetan, of course. And he reads out all of the he reads out the text, and then he stands up and he undergoes the transformation back into his younger self. And it's really lame.
Yeah.
He just sort of gets really close to a mirror, and there's
Actually, I didn't mind this because the effect is really slow. It's better than the other CG effects in the movie where people are jumping
I don't think it's
against
CG.
backgrounds.
I think they did it traditionally. I think
Oh,
they did
right,
it
okay.
with a traditional kind of like fade.
Okay.
But I suppose that's why they had to have it so close so his head wouldn't be moving around. But it's if you're going to show your dramatic transformation, having a really, really tight focus on a guy's head looking at itself in a mirror, it's not the most dramatic way to show that transformation, even though it looked okay. Then they have he's now got telekinesis and all kinds of powers the monk never uses.
Yep. He's a blood god.
Yeah, he's the blood god.
And so they have a big fight. I don't think we have to go through it, but it basically ends with him falling off the roof to his death.
Well, not to his death, because he pops up again, doesn't he?
Well, he pops up again, seemingly to his death. And then
the monk transfers
the power to the protectorship. He transfers the protectorship to Stifler.
Yep.
He does it, but the tattoos magically float off of him and onto Stifler. So it's not tattoos. So is this how it happened 60 years ago to him? Did we not see the letters float off? Or
no, it's a new thing.
So he magically he didn't tattoo these words on himself. He magically inscribed the words on himself somehow with some magic power. And now he's set it up so it can be magically float onto another person.
That's it doesn't make it's ridiculous, isn't it? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then Strucker shows up again.
Yes, he has survived.
Tries to shoot Stifler or Chow Yun-fat, and Jade says no and throws herself in front. She's shot.
Yeah.
Stifler uses his new custodian of the scroll powers or wearer of the tattoo powers
to dodge bullets, not be bulletproof. To dodge bullets.
Yep. He dodges them like the Matrix. He kicks Strucker into a big statue. The statue falls on him, and we know he's dead this time because his hand is reverted to an old man's hand.
Yes.
Then we get an interesting moment. Chow Yun-fat realizes that he's accidentally transferred custodianship to Jade as well, because he realized she fulfilled all the prophecies too.
Right.
She was also fighting under the cranes. She was also in the fight in Jade's house because she was Jade, and she fulfilled the final part of the prophecy, which is to free the brothers from the torture devices.
Yeah.
So to find a family and gain a family. So, and then they pull up her top and she's got the magic marks on her too. So they never noticed that magic marks were flying onto her. They were just busy paying attention to them flying onto Stifler.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like this because she's so much better at being a custodian than Stifler is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she has to share it, like with this schlub that learned martial arts from watching Shaw Brothers movies, and he picks people's pockets for a living, like he's a petty thief.
Yeah.
And they each get half of the final incantation. And that's the end. Yeah.
And the credit in the movie is
based on the comic book
based on the Flypaper Press comic book. That's it. Yeah. No writer, no artist.
No name. They didn't even say based on Bulletproof Monk.
No Gotham Chopra, nothing. Just a comic book that's from the same company that produced the movie. Okay, do we have any fun facts?
Oh, so many.
Okay.
Well, I've covered actually quite a bit of it while we were talking about the film. All right, okay, this film was not a success.
Yeah.
Cost a lot of money to make, $52 million.
Yeah.
Box office, $37.7 million.
Okay.
Why didn't it do well? It's not a very good movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
The action
Yeah.
sucks. The dialogue's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
It
doesn't add up. It doesn't.
No.
Oh, here was the editing question I had was when they at some point Stifler says to Jade when they're trying to rescue Monk, she says the scroll is tattooed on his body. But Monk never revealed that to Stifler.
No, you're right. Oh no, Stifler saw it, but Jade did.
Oh, he did see it?
Yeah, he saw it in the mirror when they were in the dungeon.
Did he know that was the scroll?
Yeah.
Did he know that mystic writing was the scroll?
Yeah, I think they talk about it.
Okay. All right, never mind. I just missed it.
Yeah, but Jade didn't know, though. Jade didn't know.
Yeah, but he's the one that says it to her. He's explaining to her. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Anyway, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, bummer. Yeah. You know, the screenwriters, they defend their work. They have some excuses like that the film came out during SARS, the SARS pandemic of 2003. So Chow Yun-fat wasn't available to do promotions because he was in lockdown in Hong Kong.
Oh, it's always promotion, isn't it? You
Yeah.
always blame the studio. The studio didn't promote it enough. No.
Oh, and also the Iraq War started then too.
Okay.
They said everyone was staying home watching the Iraq War.
Really?
Yeah, it's just bullshit. This just wasn't a very good movie.
Yeah.
All right, so now I'll tell you how the film got made from the perspective of the screenwriters.
Okay.
So what happened was they had met with John Woo when he was first kind of getting started in his Hollywood career.
Okay.
I think he'd made like The Replacement Killers and Broken Arrow or something like that.
He didn't direct Replacement Killers, did he? I thought he just maybe produced it.
Produced it then. Okay.
Yeah.
They're in his office pitching something to him. They want to make a film with Chow Yun-fat in it.
Mm-hmm.
And what they pitch is a gritty crime fighting movie team up with Chow Yun-fat and John Travolta.
Okay.
Because John Travolta's just done Broken Arrow.
Yes, that's right. And would later do Face Off.
Yes, that's right. Oh yeah, of course, Face Off. Chow apparently wants to do this. John Woo wants to do this. Terrence Chang, John Woo's producer partner, wants to do it, but for whatever reason, it doesn't get made. And the duo Reiff and Voris end up selling it to Richard Donner with Jet Li attached instead.
So Donner had done Lethal Weapon 4 with Jet Li.
Yes, but that's not what they pitched. Again, this film never got made. They sold it twice. Once with Chow Yun-fat to John Woo, once with Jet Li to Richard Donner, but neither film got made. Anyway, then apparently John Woo gets a copy of Bulletproof Monk. I don't know how, but presumably it's this trying to get it made pipeline with White Paper Press. He only got the first issue. Only the first issue's out at this point.
Okay.
So they're already shopping it around trying to make it a movie.
Okay. So it's 98.
Again, he likes the title.
Yeah.
So it says, this is a great title. Let's make this movie. I know just the guys to do it. Those nice boys that were in here the other day trying to get me to make a crime movie with Chow Yun-fat and John Travolta. So John Woo contacted them again, said, you want to do this movie? And they basically, with Chow Yun-fat, they had dinner with Chow Yun-fat, Terrence Chang, John Woo, and I think Ethan Reiff, who sounds a little bit like Cheech from Cheech and Chong in the podcast I was listening to. It's hilarious listening to him talk. He's like, yeah, we went to dinner with Chow Yun-fat, man. Anyway, he said that if they'd held up a toilet seat and said, make this into a movie, they would have said yes. They were so desperate to work with Chow and Woo. And so they only had the first issue to go on.
Okay.
And that's why none of that other dumb shit makes it in. But you can see that there are some of the things from the first issue of the comic make it into the film. You know, like
there's a bit of a necklace. The uncle we didn't mention, but the kid that was spying on the ritual at the very beginning turned out to be the uncle of the monk that's next in line, I think, or something like that. So there is an uncle in it.
It was the uncle of the abbot of the underground monastery in New York, who had told him about that confrontation. That's right.
And also there's like the death of Kojima is a bit like the death of Uncle. There's a few bits. And there is a necklace, but the wrong person has it. But that's all from later issue.
But there's an uncle. Yeah, as you say, there's Nazis because
Yes.
that made it in. You know, there's a Mafia Princess. She makes it in.
Yes, that's right. But they've
Yeah.
changed it to Russian instead of Chinese.
Chinese. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So you
Yeah.
can see there's the connective tissue is there.
Yeah.
And they've just wrapped a whole bunch of cliches all around it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
there's even a street gang with Mr. Funktastic.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I actually thought, oh, is Stifler going to join the gang as the scene was happening? I did wonder about
Understandable.
that. Yeah.
Yep. They as I said, they claimed to have written a very kind of edgy, cool,
Mhm.
kind of hip script, but they
Yep.
said that and apparently quite a bit of that got filmed despite the director Paul Hunter wanting to,
Okay.
and presumably producers and so on, people at MGM or whatever, saying make it family friendly, make it all audiences.
Mm.
Apparently even so some of it still made it through until apparently test screenings.
Okay.
And according to the screenwriters at the test screenings, they just started kind of like cutting stuff. They called it Death of 1,000 Cuts.
Right.
Yeah. So, and they, as evidence of that, they say, well, what's the demographic that goes to see martial arts movies?
Mhm.
It's young adult males. I suppose teenage boys and young adult males mostly,
Mhm.
present company accepted.
Mhm.
They then went on to say that they made the only martial arts movie that is universally beloved by middle-aged women and teenage girls. Those are the
They
demographics.
think this movie,
That's the
they-
demographics that liked this movie the most, apparently.
huh?
So when they did the test screenings, the people that gave it big ticks were those
Okay.
two demographics.
Okay. You know, it does pass the Bechdel test when Jade and Nina talk about the Human Rights Organization.
Yes, it does pass the Bechdel test. You're right. You're right. Yeah. But something's gone wrong when your martial arts movie is only being enjoyed by those two demographics, I think. Not that there's anything wrong with people enjoying movies.
I wonder if the Kung Fu Panda movies have a similar appeal to young girls. I wonder.
Yes. Well, I think they contributed the story treatment to that only.
Okay.
They didn't
Okay, I see,
write
I
it or direct it or anything.
All right.
But nonetheless, I'm sure that they're very rich now.
Okay.
Because that is a massive phenomenon.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
What else? Stifler hurt his back doing one of the stunts.
Okay. Yeah.
So specifically the one where he's dragged across the roof by the helicopter.
Okay.
Not the helicopter, by the satellite dish.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Where he ends up falling off the building.
Yeah.
I found an interview with him from 2003 where he thought this was going to be his big break, and he was talking about how he hurt his back really bad doing that stunt, and then the next day the only physical thing he had to do is the arm wrestle.
Okay.
So when he goes into the monastery, he meets the other candidate
That's right.
for custodianship, and they very aggressively kind of squeeze one another's hands.
Yeah, handshake.
Anyway, apparently that was the only thing physically he had to do that day, but he was in so much pain he couldn't do it and fell over.
Oh.
And Chow Yun-fat had to personally carry him to his trailer. And apparently Chow Yun-fat is like getting Stifler to take off his shirt, and Stifler's like, whoa, this ain't that kind of movie, man. And was massaging his back, calling a physio and all sorts of things.
Did you ever hear about the story about how Bruce Lee hit Jackie Chan on the set of Enter the Dragon, and Bruce Lee ran over and cradled Jackie and was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And Jackie was like pretending to be more hurt than he was so that Bruce would like cuddle him for longer. He was like,
I never heard that.
I'm in such pain.
That's amazing. Yeah, well, nobody has a bad word to say about Chow Yun-fat, incidentally.
Of course.
They all say that he's just they asked in this interview, how was working with Chow Yun-fat? And Stifler, Seann William Scott, said, I just didn't want to screw up the movie for him because he was so great. He was like the Godfather on set. He knew everybody's name and made sure everybody was having a good time.
Yeah.
But I was like, you're Chow Yun-fat, man. This is my first big opportunity. I'm under pressure here. Chow Yun-fat's like trying to get him to calm down, and he couldn't calm down because he was doing all the stunts. He was just trying his hardest. He thought this was going to be his kind of, as I said, this was going to make him a star, but unfortunately it didn't turn out that way. That's pretty much all I have for trivia.
Okay. So is it ratings time? Is that how we do this? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's only been 2 weeks. Yes, it is ratings time.
Okay.
Comic.
This comic is real bad.
Yeah.
It's real bad.
It's if it's almost the only jujitsu.
Almost unreadable. I mean, there's typos in it and stuff.
Typos, yes.
Yeah.
The only other comic we've done with typos is jujitsu. Only Jujitsu is worse than this comic. This is absolutely the second worst comic we've had on the
I think so. I think it was
podcast.
really very hard work, hard to unfollow, hard to look at. Everything about it was rough, rough work. Okay. The movie, as I said, is not good, but it's got some stuff in the plus column. Really enjoyed Chow Yun-fat in this. There were some funny lines. The fantastic stuff was good, but just overall, just not. The martial arts. You come to go martial arts. You go to a martial arts movie for martial arts.
Yep.
This doesn't have it.
Agreed. Yep.
It doesn't have what you want.
Lackluster, very, very boring, kind of
Bland.
badly edited martial arts. The dialogue is mostly terrible, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even the fantastic scene, Stifler saying things like, I'm going to check myself into a Motel 6 rather than stay in Mr. Fantastic's crib. And everyone oohs and ahs like it was this great burn.
Yeah.
The whole film's full of stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's terrible. That's why I can't give the screenwriters too much credit, because this is what they turned out. And of course, the direction. I can't believe this is a guy that's done, he's had this storied career working for all kinds of artists, Prince, Marilyn Manson, Pink. He did the Lady Marmalade music video for, for Pink and
Moulin Rouge. Yeah.
He could turn out avant-garde stuff.
Absolutely.
And then he gets his first film and it's so bland.
Seems like a David Fincher situation, like, going from, didn't he do Madonna's Vogue and stuff, and then it was Alien 3,
David Fincher did do music videos too. You're right, he did.
Yeah.
I hate bringing up David Fincher. But yeah. Well, David Fincher's first film was Alien 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And it was but that one had a lot of executive meddling and a really troubled production. This film didn't have a troubled production. It just was just kind of flawed. Okay. Bad direction, not a great screenplay, and terrible action. It's an A for me.
Yeah. Adaptation, I'm actually going yay on this one. I think it fixed up a lot of the nonsense, the obliviousness about the culture, all that kind of stuff, and the cliches, the bad dialogue, even the comedy beats in the movie are better than the attempts at comedy beats in the comic.
Oh God, it's so terrible. Like the slapstick scene.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's an improvement in every way, I'd say. Yeah.
I'm also going to say yay for similar reasons. First of all, this film has a monk.
Yes, that's right. That's right. There's no monk in the comic.
You've already,
yes.
And then as you say, this film has a story.
Yes, that's right.
Sure, it's a cliched story, but it's something that you could sit down and watch from start to finish, and you know what happened. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yeah.
I think you're right. The monk is in it. Like that Bulletproof Monk as a character does not show up in the comic, and here he's just like the 60-year-old
He never shows
dude.
up. He only shows up in dreams.
Yeah, that's right.
It just gets a yay just because there's a goddamn monk in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been even better if he was actually bulletproof. But
oh well.
Yes. Oh well, you can't have everything. So it's a yay for me too.
Okay. All right. So please like, rate, review, subscribe. Please leave a comment on Apple or YouTube or anywhere. We like those. Please send us an email at our email address, which is in the show notes, or please send us a DM through Instagram or Twitter, or please join us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Please join our Patreon at patreon.com/comicbookmovieoblivion, all one word. We do need that money to buy copies of Bulletproof Monk, because you can't get it. There's a grainy PDF online, but we needed the good stuff, and I bought that. So please contribute if you can. Did I cover all of them? I think
so. Right. And what have we got next week?
Okay, next week we've got A Distant Neighborhood by Jiro Taniguchi, translated by yours truly. The movie is a French picture, which you might have to dig around to find, but I did dig around and I found one with some decent subtitles. I hope they're not AI subtitles. We'll find out next week. I have watched it once in the past, and I had pretty cruddy subtitles, and it was all right. If you read the comic as well, if you can find that, it's pretty easy to follow anyway, even with bad subtitles. And maybe that's all I have to say about it.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Okay.